Hi, I'm Katie Eden Todd, and I'm an archetypal therapist and music therapist of over 35 years. I've worked with people in private practice for decades and been teaching groups for decades. And I've just finished writing my memoir and having to look at all the contracts and the hard, dark nights of the soul. And what the fuck were they teaching me? I've come to the other side and I've been able to pull together 7 stages of lessons that we all need to move through that are absolutely groundbreaking and transforming in our relationships with ourselves and in our relationships with others. We are here to learn how to love and how to receive love and how to contribute the love of our unique talents. It's all about love. Everything's about love. But we come in with our wounding, we come in with our fate, we come into blueprints and difficult places, and we've got some hard lessons to learn. And no one's been able to teach us about love because they weren't taught about it. So there's been this real absence from what I can see. And oh my God, have I done a lot of relationship and couple work with people over the years. And the same lessons keep coming up, the same messages, the same brick walls keep coming up. And it's been my passion. It's been my total intent and life's work to take myself through them, through the ugliness of myself, the darkest parts of myself, the shadows of myself, to find out what they were really about way underneath, find out what a new path was. What is love and what love isn't is one of the most important questions. And who am I and what am I here for? This is my whole life's work. I love to look at the world through a lens of stories and how we've been brought up and the roles that and expectations and conditioning that have occurred. I call them blueprints. How are we supposed to be? And we've been taught a false story that is fundamental to every human being on the planet. We've been taught that men are the masculine and women are the feminine. Wrong. We've been taught that there's duality and they're in our unconscious, they're in our psyches, they're part of how we are brought up in the world. So whichever one you were born to be, this masculine, men should be like this, women should be like that. There's a huge problem with that, in that we all have the masculine and the feminine within us. And for example, my masculine is stronger than my feminine. You might be able to pick that up. I'll talk about what the traits are within masculine and feminine in a moment, but I also want to say there's another huge problem with this theory of masculine and feminine. And we've been so indoctrinated to live this out, and it's very toxic because we don't fit them. It doesn't suit us. It's putting on clothes that don't fit. There's a third one. There's masculine, there's feminine, and there's the neutral. There's the Trinity within. And we're all born with a natural way of relating and operating the world. That is our unique combination, and it doesn't change. That's who I am. So for me, I'm a masculine first, then a feminine, really weak at neutral. You might be a neutral, and then a feminine, then a masculine. They're all good. They can all be fantastic. They all have light and shadow sides. They have great strengths and they have great weaknesses. A person who's a primary masculine like me is very authoritative. I'm going to talk about the shadow first because I'm a person who loves shadow, because I think if we heal the shadow, we get to the light. We can't deny the shadow. So a masculine is very decisive. They feel like a born leader. They feel right. They don't apologize. They're assertive, can be aggressive, a real dictator. It's my way or the highway. They're bold, they're impetuous, they're visionaries, they are entrepreneurial, they get excited, they're innovative, they jump, they leap, they're fast, they're hot-headed, they're passionate, they make things happen, they can unite people, they can bring us all together, they're charismatic, but they're in charge, make no doubt about it. So this can be in any gender, and of course we have transgender, and we have the truth coming through now in our world powerfully. Bless the younger generation for leading this. And it's happening in other generations, that we've always had multiple ways of being. We are not man and woman. We're going to get to that soon, but we're not just these things. We are a whole being in and of ourselves. So the masculine can have this superiority and entitlement, does a lot of damage in the world, sets up wars, loves to fight just to prove that they're right, and best has to be best. But in the light, there's a nobility, there's a humility, there's great wise leadership and integrity, but you've got to go through a lot of lessons before you get to that side. Okay, do you all recognize some masculines in your life? Feminine. The feminine, as we've known it, is someone who's a people pleaser. They're quite codependent. They're nice. They're lovely. They're kind. They're naturally nurturing. They're like the mother at home, the housewife, that I just want to help people. I like people. Very conflict averse, too passive, too mute, too attached to another, unable to be decisive and choose their own lives, always seeking to be with that stronger one. So we have lots in relationships. We have masculine and feminines naturally drawn together because the masculine would like to be served and the feminine says, could I serve you? That'd be lovely, thank you. So can you see that dynamic? Again, can be in any gender. You can see how this plays out in relationships. It's so fascinating. Every relationship is different. And our MFN modality, way of being, dictates a lot of how we communicate or don't communicate, or how we navigate conflict, or how we get on well, where we're compatible, or where we're actually being pretty toxic for each other. It's all about this language. So it's really fascinating. And so, of course, there's the kindness and the loving patience and humility of feminine is beautiful. That's wonderful. It's just that they've allowed themselves to be walked on way too much and been passive, and they put themselves last. Masculine puts themselves first, feminine puts themselves last. All of these things are the lessons that we've got to move through. Neutral. The neutral is someone who is very strong in mind, in logic, in facts, in evidence, is curious, likes to research, likes to have order, process, and likes to have control, likes to be independent. So they can be a bit averse to, they can't stand how hot-headed the masculines are and how aggressive they can become and bullying and taking over and superior. They don't like that at all. But the neutral can be very cold and very officious and rule-driven, and they try to control the masculine. So you often have this hot-cold war. Meanwhile, the feminine's in between, trying to please and is lukewarm and trying to make sure everyone's happy. And they're quite stressed and quite anxious. Because can we just get everything nice again, please? Everyone get along? Can we just get along? I don't mind, whatever you want, fine. But the neutrals and the masculines will have this conflict about who's right and who's better. We actually need all three. And so when conflict comes in relationships, we'll tend to go to what's dominant in us, and we'll keep making the same mistakes over and over again. And we won't be heard by the other. If we don't share the same pattern of relating, then we'll keep missing each other and getting more and more frustrated. We'll keep speaking of values that don't line up. We'll keep feeling unseen and unheard, and that causes a gap, doesn't it, in relationships, and pain, and a feeling of I'm not feeling seen and heard and loved here. But it's just we're speaking different languages. This is incredibly helpful in understanding how you operate in your best circumstances and worst, and how partners and children and everyone else operates. MFN, really fascinating language, and it's archetypal. The MFN, masculine, feminine, neutral aspects of ourselves are really fascinating, and they explain everything about the way we relate with others, at work, at home, partners, parenting, everything. It's just the greatest tool to understanding the keys to unlocking why we keep hitting the same brick walls, yeah? But they also have attached with them expectations, social expectations, family expectations, global expectations. You will behave this way and you are allowed to go here, but you're not allowed to go there. So they're extraordinarily limiting for everyone of every gender, is caught in this terrible maze where we've compartmentalized who we are into separate bits, and they're not communicating and connected in us, and they're not connected in the world. Hence, we have an enormous amount of pain and suffering in the world. This is why. So I've been doing this work for over 35 years, and I thought I'll go right back to the beginning and see if I can look at the original blueprint that we are all powerfully hypnotized by and still living through unconsciously. We're not aware of it. Most of us is not thinking about it, but believe you me, it's affecting you and it's affecting me, everyone. And so I've gone back to biblical stories, the Abrahamic religions, where we start off with Adam and Eve and God in the Garden of Eden. And I can apply my MFN language here to Adam and Eve and God. And this is really the structure, the paradigm that we're all been raised in. So Adam is masculine, and we know what sort of a man, you know, the John Wayne type of man, strong, assertive, the leader, don't question me, obey me, serve me, adore me, meet my needs, but don't do anything outside what I want because I will punish you. So very dictatorial. And Adam, and little boys have been raised to be Adam, we are not this. No one is that. But that was held as the pinnacle, wasn't it? Be an Adam. Now, Adam then has Eve as his wife as his companion. He was lonely. Why was Adam lonely? Because he was a fucker. Why was he a fucker? Because the original sin actually was Adam would not recognize his first wife, Lilith, as being his equal. This is true. This is in Jewish religious texts. You're not even allowed to mention Lilith there or call someone Lily or Lilith. This is really significant, powerful stuff. Not in the Bible. Lilith exists. Lilith was the first wife of Adam. She would not submit to and be less than. So the original sin in humanity that we're all carrying in our psyches, within us, in that intangible world that is more real than the real world, we have Lilith says, I will not be submissive to you. I am not here to be molded by you, to meet your needs, to please you. I am an equal in my own right. And we came to partner, to come together. So it's a symbolic story of the severance of the feminine. Lilith says, I am not going to stay with you if that's how you're going to disrespect me and treat me. And Adam says, I will demonize you. I will gaslight you. Anyone relating to this story at all? An empowered woman is mad, is raging, is passionate. She's off a tree. Don't trust her. She's dangerous. He then taught all of us to fear that powerful, empowered, whole feminine who's married her masculine within. She doesn't need to be attached to a man. She has her own sense of being and destiny, and she lives it. But no, that was not welcome. So that's the original sin in humanity, and it's in you and it's in me. How extraordinary, this fracture. So what does Eve look like? What does it look like when any gender starts playing Eve in a relationship at home? Well, they start to lose their voice. They don't have an opinion. Whatever you like is fine. Oh, as long as you're happy, I'm happy. Yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, that's fine. They're not present. They're abandoning themselves chronically. You make the decisions. I hand my life, I hand my heart over to you. They lose themselves. They have no idea of their own value. And that's because the feminine has totally lost all connection with the masculine, because you're saying, well, you can play my masculine and I'll play your feminine. This is the great wound of our era. So what would a strong neutral look like in a family? A strong neutral would be very controlling, would be, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, you've got to do this. The rule of this. We don't need those emotions in here. Thank you. I don't have time for that. Thank you. I'm working. I have to provide. Do you know I have to provide for this family? I have so much pressure on me at work. I've got to work. Don't you dare bring up talking about our relationship right now. I've got a deadline on Monday. I can't be talking about that now. You've got to give me warning. You've got to give me notice before I'm going to go into those places. And they never do. So the neutral is going to compartmentalize and want to solve everything, fix everything, organize everything, clean up everything. Have its control, it's compartmentalizing and doesn't want to feel. I'm not going to feel, I'm going to get cold. And the more they go there, the more aloof they're going to be and busy they're going to be. Do you know people like this? Have you been like this? There's a light side, of course, to all of these. Have you been a passive feminine where you've handed over your power to another and then cried because they're being so mean to you? We are responsible for everywhere we go and the choices we make in everything and in our relationships. And then the masculine, who becomes this angry, tantruming, screaming bully, saying, why aren't you loving me the way I want to? That's not what I want. And that was me. I've certainly had to work incredibly hard on that. I'm showing you the shadow sides of MFN now and how they relate in a family, maybe your parents, maybe your children. When we're struggling and when we're in pain and when we're stressed and when we're vulnerable, we'll tend to double down into our dominant one, be that feminine, be that neutral, be that masculine. And then we're less reachable in our relationships. And then we do little more things to sabotage and repel people and to get in the way of love. This is all about our layers to love. And if we want to, honestly, there's an extraordinary amount of information here that can help peel away the layers so we can see what we're doing and consciously choose differently to walk towards love rather than putting more barriers to love. Adam has lost connection with his feminine and Eve has totally lost connection with the masculine. And meanwhile, the neutral, which is God in the Garden of Eden, goes, you're both fucked. Get out. Leave. Can't stand either of you. I want to stay in my mind. I don't want to be handling any of this mess. It's just, you're ridiculous, your children, get out. You've disappointed me. So there you are, the biblical story of Adam and Eve, as you've never heard it before. It's MFN, God plays the judge. He's a vengeful, Old Testament God, he's disapproving. You have to learn this. You have to obey this rule. Otherwise, I will punish you. This is the childish, immature way of being at a soul level that we have had for thousands of years, thinking that this is how the world is. God is out there. I'm either a woman or a man, and I have to be totally that and not united and not connected to that part of myself. And I have to somehow function that way. So we've all been spliced. We've all had these terrible, massive fractures happen within us. And what's happening now? The feminine's coming through. We are being called to unite the masculine, the feminine, and the neutral within us. We're being called to find the source, the aspect of the divine that lives within us, not out there. We're being called to connect with our higher selves, with the divinity. We're being taught to interweave our masculine and feminine and to become whole in ourselves in our unique way. This is what we're here to do now. To change that story, to cast out that story. It's cracking, it's dying, it's hierarchical, it's patriarchal. We know what it's done, but it doesn't change out there. We have to become the change that we desire. We are being called to be the change that we long for, which means I've got to bring my masculine and feminine into harmony, and I'm strong in one and weak in the other, and fuck me, it's going to be hard, but that's the lessons. That's the task. Are you up for it, my darlings? Because this is our time and you're being called. So understanding love and relationships, a very helpful concept that I have come up with in my ways. I'm sure others have talked about it in different ways, but my way is that we have fatal attractions. We're extraordinarily drawn to certain types of people, and it's a disaster. Anyone been there? Anyone hung in for supposedly too long in a relationship that was never right, that was never really about unconditional love? But why were we there? Why did we choose it? How are we so stupid? We get so judgmental, do we not? We're so critical of ourselves. The way I see it is when we're born into our families as this beautiful, unique little soul cell, we're born into a family script and ways of being, and we instantly modify ourselves to try and get the love that we need. It's important to remember here that our parents, our grandparents, and great-grandparents, no one was unconditionally loved. People were surviving. People were had lots of trauma that's been passed down through the generations, which are specific family scripts for you, for me, for everyone. So that's what we're born into. And we are seeking unconditional love. Could you see me? Could you hear me? Could you understand me? Could you support me unconditionally? Could you hold my imperfections, my darkness, my ugliness, my confusion when I'm lost? Could you hold me in that? Our parents never had it. So, I mean, there's a scale of how badly we missed out, but we all missed out here. Let's be clear. And it's interesting because all our lives, we're going to be very drawn to the people who least were able to hold and love us unconditionally, who we had least compatibility with. Like when we've talked about in my archetypal language, masculine, feminine, and neutral, which is nothing to do with gender, which is just energies of how we are and our unique makeup. The ones that totally don't get us, they're the ones we feel most hurt by and least loved by. And as a result of that, it's programmed in us since childhood to be incredibly drawn to what I call family replicas, to other people who have that same makeup, that same MFN, masculine, feminine, neutral, whatever their combination is, that same makeup of ways of being, because our child feels, if I could just get them to love me, it will fix the wound I have with my dad or my mum or my grandparents or my step-parent or my siblings, whoever it was significantly with you when you were growing up, the absence that you felt. So when we're drawn to family replicas, the attraction isn't love. Newsflash, the attraction is lack. I'm drawn to, I missed out here, so I'm drawn to this. And guess what? Exactly the same thing happens again, because the same incompatibility exists. I've been drawn to neutrals. That was my weakest. We don't speak the same language. We don't understand each other. And then when we're not getting our needs met, we fall into worse behaviors, more destructive and repellent behaviors. We bring out the worst in each other in family replica relationships. But we're also the most stubborn in family replica relationships because the child has a hidden agenda, a massive, unconscious, invisible agenda that I have to heal my parental wound, my family wound through this person, so I'm not leaving. They are going to love me. But while we do that, and they can't and they never will, which is the contract, by the way, on a soul level, our wound grows. We become more and more unlovable. We become more and more self-rejecting, and we feel less likely to ever be loved. And it's like we're traumatizing ourselves. We are definitely not loving ourselves. We don't know we're doing this. I saw this pattern with my clients over 30 years. Oh my God, this exists everywhere. When you understand the fatal attractions and how powerful it is that we're all seeking that unconditional love in the wrong places externally, and with the people who are least likely to be able to do it in the whole world, when you start to see that, I'll tell you what, you can forgive yourselves the mistakes that you've made, or at least understand them a hell of a lot better. And you can also have warning alarms going off like, oh my God, that's this person. That's my dad. That's my mom. I'm not going there. I'll be drawn to the wrong person for the rest of my life, but I will not go there anymore, because that is the very definition of self-abandonment. What I'm looking for can only come from me. So this is a really fascinating, huge topic, family replicas, fatal attractions, and it's how we came to learn in this incredibly difficult school called Earth. It's part of our lessons of love. It's possible to define our era as having been all about the missing feminine, all about the mother wound. We have lived in this paradigm, which we talked about earlier, the Adam and Eve paradigm. But we had an exile before that where Lilith was exiled. And Lilith was the whole empowered feminine who can face darkness, who has integrated her masculine and neutral. She's the whole picture, baby. She can rage. She's passionate. She's a truth teller. She's complete in herself. Lilith chooses the children, not the partner, because her existence doesn't rely on being attached to an Adam. So she's able to be far more authentic. But as Lilith is not welcome and Adam will not meet her, allow equality here. I mean, you can all see this in our misogynistic world, can't you? We've had this hierarchy of Adam and Eve. So throughout time in our consciousness, we have had mothers who've been unmothered. Mothers have taught their daughters to be Eves because that's how you survive. We didn't have agency to be able to provide for ourselves, work for ourselves, live. We had to conform to this model. It is extraordinarily powerful. It is not lightweight. This is huge. Everyone's affected. And so our mothers were not allowed to be free and be themselves. They were in a tight little box. You must be this. My God, the punishments were tough if they stepped outside of that. They were demonized, as Lilith was. I know of a woman who's 85, and she was telling me the story of she had a heel this big once when she was 17, bought shoes like that. And her mother, who was incredibly meek and mild, said, you take those back now, you look like a slut. She'd never heard her mother speak like that, never fought with her mother in her whole life. That much of a heel terrified the Eve in her mother, to contain ourselves and not be ourselves. So we've got to break these shackles now. So the mother wound is we've not known how to be present with our pain, with our struggles, with our uncertainties, with our rage, with all that has come up by being pushed into this disgusting, appalling box and enslaved in roles that never suited us, that don't allow us to be ourselves, our talents that we have, that we came to contribute. Any minority in the world is going to relate to this story. And this is the feminine in men as well, of course, that has similarly been constrained. So our mothers were unmothered. They were not held and loved unconditionally. It was very conditional. Our grandmothers, even more so. Our great-grandmothers, even more so. So the mother wound, the missing feminine, has caused this terrible imbalance of the masculine and the neutral taking over our world. And look what has happened. Look at the lack of compassion, the lack of empathy, the lack of kindness, the lack of equity, the lack of opportunity, the lack of caring and including everyone, and diversity, the lack of providing for all. It's been very much about the elite receive it all, the rest are less than. This hierarchical model is so toxic. And this is because of the MFN for the world, the missing feminine. So When we understand this, I do feel like we hold our mothers to account far more harshly than we do our fathers, because every child looks to the mother to innately, you should just know how to be the primal mother who can hold all emotions and have the wisdom to guide us through the dark nights of the soul, who can help us through everything that arises. They never received any of this. And then when they're not able to give it to us and in fact direct us to be stuck in these little boxes that we don't want to be in and we rebel, we judge our mothers, and we are estranged from our mothers, and we feel betrayed by our mothers. And there's this fracture that occurs through the generations. So where we are now is, it's our role, mine and yours. We have to fix this wound. And our times are about learning how to mother ourselves, learning how to be present and to hold and to be that unconditional love, the Lilith feminine whole love, not Eve love, not bypassing, not pretending, not avoiding, not denying, not being pleasing, not I'll do my manifesting meditation. It's none of that. It's not that, because that doesn't penetrate a millimeter. When we are here and we start to learn that we can be the providers and the mother to ourselves in the whole feminine sense of the word, that's when our lives start to transform. And in this revolution that's happening now, a societal, a social revolution, it is about the feminine rising in all genders. It's an exciting time to be around, but we have to play our part. We have to be the change we desire. We can't wait for it to come to us. It will never happen. So we're looking at this fascinating subject of Adam and Eve and Lilith, and understanding what the true feminine is as opposed to the Eve feminine, which no one truly is, though many can live as Eve, and it's incredibly disempowering. So what's the empowered feminine? Our era is defined by the missing feminine and all the ways we try to attain the feminine, but we don't get it. Think about addictions. It's all feminine substitutes. So what are we looking for, people? What do we want? We want to be held. We want to be able to bring all of our imperfections, all of ourselves, to awareness and be okay with it. Allow, accept, understand, empathize, have the grace to be able to say, yeah, I see that shadow, I hear that shadow, I hear your pain. To know what to do with pain, for fuck's sake. People haven't got a clue. They divert, run, avoid, bypass. So much of the New Age spiritual work out there is about promising rewards. That's masculine, dark masculine. Promising everything you want. Garden of Eden, heaven, I'll promise you heaven. Buy this product, do this meditation. Fuck off. Seriously. Seriously. What we're looking for is to be held in our pain, in our darkness, in our uncertainties, in our imperfections, in our shame, so they can be transformed, so we can be transformed, so we can learn what love is, because love has to include the going in the figure eight through the darkness. It's not all about light. Otherwise, you're just in the fluoro lights. You're missing the whole point. And we're being forced to go there. Our darknesses are coming up. We've got to learn how to see them, understand them, make sense of them, have compassion for them, see the whole story, be honest with them, not avoid them. So the answer to everything is whatever comes up for you, any trigger, any feeling, is to go there. How do we become the mother that we craved and never had? You go there with whatever comes up in you. Absolutely everything. Because what's the tip of the iceberg is not the true story. The true story, you have to go down some steps, down the layers, to find out, oh my God, it's really about this. My agenda is really about this. Oh, I've really been doing this for this reason. Because we like to pretend and not see what we're really about. And to be able to go there repeatedly, daily, as a way of life, and be present with everything that you're experiencing in life, to have that sense of connectedness, of acceptance, is that not what you've been looking for? That sense of grace where, yeah, tell me the worst that you've ever done. Oh, I can beat that. I can beat that. I probably can. I can beat it. I can beat that. This is what love is. It's not saying, I love you. it's actions, it's presence, it's holding, it's awareness, it's having the ability to go through the rings of fire, the discomfort, the squirmy bits of I don't want to know about this, the fears of how to travel within, of how to go there, how to land where it really is. That sort of presence, that's where we're most lonely. That's where we're least able to be with ourselves. We've all been taught not to go there. We've been indoctrinated not to go there. It's dangerous. It's not dangerous. It's empowering, which is why we're taught not to go there. It's the most empowering, peaceful, loving, graceful haven. You won't want to leave when you learn to go there, whatever comes up. So going there is the way we're going to learn how to mother ourselves and mother the world, how to reintroduce the missing feminine, the empowered feminine back into our lives now. So this work to love, to learn how to unconditionally love yourself and others, to be coming from love, to know how to move through our wounds and pain and our fate so as we can live out our destiny. It's all about going there. And some of you, maybe many of you, have already started this progress. You've done some work on yourself. You've been doing work on yourself. But you know what? We don't get the real transformations that we crave unless we embody and we feel. You have to feel everything. And most of us have been taught to analyze everything in our work, but we don't feel it. That means that fracture inside of us is still alive and well. That means that part of our child inside that's screaming for love in that way is unheard. And so it's going to come up again. We're going to have similar scenarios, similar points of tension and conflict and difficulty in relationships because we haven't really gone there at all. Going there in your head doesn't count. You have to go there experientially. This is an embodied school. Earth is about emotions and going through there. And you know what? The neutral has taught us, don't go there. You're out of control. It looks ugly. You're mad. We're not fucking mad. We're courageous. Vulnerability. My vulnerability, your vulnerability. Boy, did I fight my vulnerability being a primary masculine. Fuck me. Did I fight my vulnerability? Because I thought I'd die if I went through to the vulnerability. And that was where everything I wanted lived, in the door of vulnerability. I now know at 61, go there through the vulnerability, and I still have some resistance. So what's going to happen for you as you start to heal and do the work, the real work of embodying and feeling and going far deeper within into yourself, because it's the only way we heal. It is the only way. And you care enough about yourself to get to know who you really are and get to know all your stories, all your excuses. And in relationships, I've done so much couple counseling, I'll never do it again. But I've done so much. And there isn't a person that I've ever met and done this work in 35 years who hasn't said the warning signs were there straight away that this relationship wasn't going to work. I knew straight away. You did too, didn't you? There were warning bells. And this could be a friendship. It could be a business relationship. It could, as well as a partnership. It's the family replica stuff, my darlings. It's going to the same. We're living out our family blueprint. It's like we never graduated leaving home, even though we might have left home 40 years ago. We're still living in our family blueprint. We're still living in that dynamic, seeking the love we wanted as children, where we can only give it to ourselves. And it's really interesting in my work, and I've done a lot of archetypal work and persona work and understanding who we are. We have favorite stories to tell where we lie to ourselves. Yeah, this work is all about honesty, and our shadow is welcome. Our shadow is welcome because our shadow is just expressions of our pain that haven't been resolved and held yet. So we need to find out about them. But we make excuses. We go into denial. We pretend things are going to work. We're so desperate to have this relationship work or that person be the one who's going to fix me. Don't get me started on twin flames. Put that in the fucking bin. You are your own twin flame. You want your higher self. That's what you're looking for. It's not outside of us. It's always inside of us. The wholeness and unity we seek is within. And you can't cheat the school of life. I tried. Have you tried? I thought I was pretty good at it. And then I had tantrums to the universe because I'm looking at the world as separate and the divine is separate to me, not realizing I'm writing the whole fucking script here. Get a grip, Katie. So what's the stories I tell? What are the excuses I say for why I can't do this and why I can't have that? Oh, but nobody I wasn't allowed to do this when I was young. I couldn't do this, and I've always needed this, and I always missed out on that. Do you hear how there's a story there? I've got my favourite ones, and they're persona related. You will have your favourite ones too. These are our excuses and denials about where we go, where we don't want to really grow. The child inside of us is terrified of change. Make no mistake. And it will stick stubbornly to trying to find the love the way it tried to from when it was 2, 3, 4 years of age for the rest of its life. So we're going to have to come in as a pretty strong parent figure to our inner child and go, hey, I'm what you're looking for. No, it's not out there. I'm the only one who can give you what you need, who can love you as you need. And the stories of how you're unlovable, I'm going to break them all down. We're not going to hide in those excuses, because we do hide. And we're so used to having been kept in this contained small box. We're actually frightened of being as big as we are. We're actually frightened of being as empowered as we are and as capable of loving and contributing to the world as we are. We're actually frightened of this. This is familiar. Familiar is always preferable to the child, even though it can be the same tortured pain cycles that we're in. I feel like our pain cycles and our patterns are really coming up in relationships now. There's a lot of endings. There's a lot of that's got to stop. And everything is my mirror. Everything I'm accusing others of is what I'm doing inside of myself. Oh my God, just take it from me. This time that we're in right now is very much about make sure you have the courage and the honesty to realize everything you're talking about, complaining about, the stories you're telling, this is how you are enslaving yourself and staying where it's comfortable but torturous. And we're needing to break the shackles free now. And if we start to go there, that means we'll go to the unknown and we'll start to become something we've never been before. How fantastic. We're going to be more unique, more colorful, more creative, more interesting. Yeah, things may drop as I let go of my protective armor, as you do. I don't know what I'm going to become, do you? But it's the path now, my darlings. It's the path. So let's watch out, because there's lots of little sabotaging stories that we've clung on to for life to say, I'm staying here, but we can't now. We're just going to get repeatedly cracked. And even more interestingly, as all the volcanoes are going off around the world at the moment, or many are, it's not even stuff coming from outside of us. You know what? It's your soul trying to break through like a volcano, try to crack you in your own highest good, try to crack you like, no more. Got to be brave now. Got to come with heart. We've got to come with compassion. Let's make lots of mistakes as we go. But it's about getting bigger now. So let's be aware of our stories and listen to everything as if we might talk about others as if it's for ourselves. As we move through these layers and illusions and stories that are hindrances, blocks to who we are, and blocks to the love we long for, and blocks to the love we long to be and how we long to love in the world, where do we get to? I'd like to give you a little story. Last night, my boys, I'm a passionate Australian football rules supporter. I mean, passionate. I love to yell and scream. It's very cathartic. And I call them my boys very affectionately. My boys suffered a devastating loss, unexpected loss against the other local team who've been dreadful for years, and we got thrashed. Oh my God. Bear with me here, people, bear with me. And it was really interesting. I was watching other supporters come in straight away and they're angry, sack the coach, and this is disgusting. You owe us an apology. And I thought about how appalling we are, really, as people, how immature we are, that we can't deal with ups and downs in life. If you are a passionate supporter of anything, could be a political party, a sporting party, whatever, there are ups and downs. No one's on the rise all the time, because that's not life. There's a figure eight. So I woke up, I went to bed a bit cranky. I was so disappointed. I was heartbroken. That was the third loss in a row. When we started off, we were second. We were looking like this year could be it. We've been waiting for nearly 30 years. Patience. You learn so much through loving something and going through life that way. But it's a mirror. It's a mirror. And so I thought, apply the work, Katie, to the disappointment of where you are now. So straight away, do I want to be a bitch and judge and get stuck in? And I absolutely do not. I absolutely do not. You know what happened? They got caught on the hop. Have you ever been ambushed in life and caught on the hop? It's a disaster. It's like you want to go stop, push stop and go, can I start again? But you can't. It's too late. So I thought, we'll go there in what my football team's loss has brought up for me. Go there. How could I be present with myself? How could I be compassionate and understanding to them? And how could I just fucking grow up and say, this is life? And I can feel great today. I can feel connected. So what I did with that was I realized it was a trigger. Any feeling that comes up, any thought that comes up that's like a jab, lightning bolt. When you know how to do this work and graduate this course, a daily way of life, and whatever comes to you, I go there. So I went there. I did my meditation. I came, instead of being out of myself, the more out of ourselves, the angrier, the more reactive and destructive and toxic we will be. And I would have been ashamed of myself if I went into that place over this, seriously. But to come back in, to know how to go there with myself and say, yeah, that's life. And they'll learn from it. This loss will teach them a lot. The hardest times in life are how we learn. The painful times, pain comes to teach us. It's how we find out about love. This is why you can't bypass and just go into manifesting abundance and picket fences, people, and soulmates. Fuck off. No. You have to go through the abyss. And this isn't a big abyss for me, but I've been in abysses for decades in my life. That's where I learned all that I know, all that I teach. I had to go there because that was where all the jewels were. That's where this hidden buried treasure was. And oh my God, it was fantastic. So if we know how to be able to hold that disappointment, say, that I had, hold that and be loving with it and go a little bit deeper and a little bit more compassion, a little bit more grace, I came to a nicer place in myself. I grew a little bit. I grew a little bit of heart and soul because I didn't go down the same old road. And I saw the people who were, and they were torturing themselves and they were winding themselves up and they were moving further out of themselves, further away from heart, further away from love. They were further away from the feminine, which then left them in a place of greater pain, because anything can take us in either direction, but we need to know this new way of how to go there. So when we've learned how to, we still make mistakes, we're still imperfect. Accepting imperfection is part of it. It's key to it. It's understanding that life isn't the Garden of Eden or heaven, that this is a place of love and peace inside that we try to come from. It's about being connected, vulnerable, raw, and allowing everything that comes up without judgment. It's allowing every trigger in your relationship to come up and go, what's this saying about me? Why have I chosen this? What is this? How is this a pattern for me in my life? It's about looking at everything. And yes, we're analyzing, but then we're embodying, because it's coming up to say, this is still a chain. This is still a layer between you and love. Would you like to melt it? Would you like to shed that? And if we don't go there, then we don't shed that. And then we still walk around in life attracting the same patterns, the same dynamics over and over again, a million times. Do it several lifetimes if you like, 57, doesn't matter. You're allowed to do it for as long as you like. But we do have the know-how now to know, oh, go there. And so I went there and I went to a kinder place. I could have stayed annoyed and disappointed and depressed for a few days because I love my boys and I'm feeling their pain. Instead, I'm sending them love. It's like, yeah, part of life. We learn from it. What could we learn from that? They will learn from this more than they would if they'd had a great win. This is what life is like. Everything's a mirror of life. There's a lesson in everything. There's a silver lining here. It's learning how to live this way, my darlings.